Alright, in part 2 of my work in progress project, we're just going to go over our login page here. And I named this file password_page.html. Now, let me minimize this. I have a folder called Bills 2018 on my desktop. If you open that, I have password_page.html, which is what we're going to look at. So I right click at it with Notepad++. And there's other things that go along with this that make it work. We have to go in this folder called box, and then we have to go into this folder called PASSWD, short for password, and we have login.wave, which is a sound file. We have password.js, which is an external JavaScript sheet that creates action for our page. We have a shortened version of passwordstyle.css, spelled PSWD style.css. This is going to create our styling, our colors and sizes and everything that you see with your eyes. And then we have smile.ico, which is a little smiley face that we use in different places as an image. So let's just highlight the JavaScript and CSS files, edit with Notepad as well, because we need all of those. And just remember the login wave and the smile.ico. That's just the picture and the sound that this page is going to use as well. Alright, so let's do side by side. Let's look at the style first, because the style is usually the quickest thing. We stylized our table element with width set to 100%. Minimum width is set to 330 pixels. The border is set to thick black inset. And I misspelled these last two styles, so you don't even have to type them in unless you want to type it in and take the Z's off just to see how it looks. Then for the table header, we have a couple of styles. The width and the border have settings. Then we have an element with the ID audio player. So we have pound audio player. And inside the curly braces, we have a variety of styles there. For the elements that have ID forum login and user ID and shortened password PSWRD, we gave all of those a font size of 50 pixels. The element that has the ID of forum login, we set a width, a height, a border, and a background color for that one. And again, for the elements that have the ID, user ID, and password, we also gave those two elements a color, a width, and a margin left. The next element we're going to look at is the field set, which we set a width and a margin. Then we have a class called buttons, shortened BTNZ, and it's a class as indicated by the dot. We gave the buttons class a background color, a font size, a height, and for the background we gave it a linear gradient, which made these buttons look nicer than just completely flat color from top to bottom. The linear gradient starts at the top with light blue and it eases into the bottom, which is black. And we gave the actual font color white so that it would have a nice contrast. If you wanted to change this light blue to just blue, I don't know how that's going to work being capitalized, but let's see. That's what it looks like, so I guess capital doesn't matter. But I like the baby blue, so I'm going to go back to what I had there by hitting Control-Z a couple of times. So I don't have to type that all over again. And lastly, I have a class called Single Page, which I gave it a background color of light blue as well. So that's everything for the passwordstyle.css style sheet. And if you needed to pause the video to actually copy all this stuff so you can use it, see it, and then make changes for yourself, you can do that. Let's look at the password.js. The JavaScript file is really short, so we've got a function, just one function. It's called function check, and in parentheses we've got form. We have an if condition in, let's see, the whole function is enclosed in the opening curly and closing curly, as you can see in Lime. We have this if condition that goes, the condition is inside of the green parentheses, as you can see. So if that if condition is true, then we're going to execute the statements that are in the next set of lime curly braces. If this condition is not true, then we're going to ignore these curly braces. We're going to go to the else keyword, and we're going to execute the statements in these curly braces. And this last curly brace is the closing curly brace for the entire function. So inside of this ifs condition, we have if parentheses form.userid.value double equals u in double quotes double and form.password.value double equals p in double quotes. Then you've got the or symbol here, form.userid.value double equals Lisa in double quotes double and form.password.value double equals green in double quotes. And remember, the spelling has to be perfect. I'm saying password, but it's the shortened version that I spelled PSWRD. Spelling counts. So what this means is if we give the user a value of u and the password a value of p, then this will be true, and we will do this. We will do this, which says window.open, and in parentheses we are pointing to what we want to open. And the path is inside the folder called box, inside the folder called 2018, and we're pointing to landing_page.html. Now, because this is an or condition, that could be true, or this can be true in order to open the window. The second thing would be making the user ID's value Lisa and the password's value green. So I can show you that I can also say that the username is Lisa, and though you cannot see it, I am typing green, and I am doing it exactly the way it's hard-coded. This is a lowercase u, a lowercase p, or Lisa with a capital L, and green with a capital G. So it's very specific. Login. There's my landing page. If I can move this over so you can see the name. Box, landing 2018, landing_page.html. We were able to open this page because we typed in the right thing that the code was expecting. And again, if we typed anything else in there, we would get the alert pop up that says there is an error with your password or username. \n goes down a new line, \t goes and tabs, and then we see in parentheses, please try again. So if I leave the landing page and I misspell, well, it's not misspelling, but it's got the improper case, little l, and try to log in there, there's an error with your password or username. We went down with the \n and we tabbed to the right, and then we said please try again in parentheses. Okay, so there's the end of the else, there's the end of the whole function called check form. Now that we've looked at the CSS for style and the JavaScript for functionality, let's actually look at the code for this page. This is password_page.html. So in line 1, you got your opening HTML tag. Line 2 to 7, you have your opening and closing head tags. So inside of the head, we've got a title, opening, closing title, password page 2018. You can see that right here in the Browsers tab. Then we have 3 links. The first one is link rel equals shortcut icon href equals, and here we're pointing to the smile.ico I told you about. We go inside the folder called box, then we go inside the folder called password shortened, and then we point to smile.ico. Then we have type equals image /x icon, and then we close that link. The next link we have is link rel equals style sheet, type equals text /css, and href, again, we're going to point to the external style sheet. We're going to go inside a folder called box, and then inside a folder called password shortened, and then we're going to point to password style.css shortened, pswdstyle.css. We're going to close up the link, and then we have then we're going to point to an external JavaScript. So we have script language equals JavaScript, source src equals inside box, inside password, we see password.js. Close the script, close the head, and now we have the opening body tag. Let's slide down. Inside of the body, we have a div with an ID of form. Then we have an opening field set tag. The field set is this tiny little line that goes all the way around all of the other elements. After that, we have a legend, opening and closing tag that says login here with a colon, and that's what this is. This is the legend of the field set. It's kind of like a little title for the field set, if you will. Inside of that, we have table with an ID of password table, shortened PSWD table. Inside of the table tags, we have a pair of TR tags for the table row. So this first table row, inside we have a TD, opening and closing tag. That's for the table data cell. And inside the table data cell, we have an audio. So this is what's creating our audio player up here. Audio ID equals audio player, and we've given it the word controls so that you can see the word controls. If you take controls out of here, it will be invisible and you won't be able to do anything with it because we don't have this auto playing or anything, so you need the controls. Inside of the audio tags, we have source src equals, and again we're pointing to a path. Inside a box, inside a password, we will find login.wave. Close your source tag, close your audio, close your TD, and close your TR. Next, we have another table row of this particular table. Inside of the next table row, we're using TH tags because we're going to stylize table headers. This table header has a class set to single page, and then CSS style sheet. If you remember .single page, that was how we stylized this particular element. Okay, then we have 3 images in the table header. The first image has border set to 0, source equals. Inside a box, inside a password, we're pointing to smile.ico. That's our first smiley face here. Title equals A. It's basically our pop-up. If we hover over this, you see that A. It's like a tooltip. It pops up. It gives you a little information by hovering on what this image is. You can put anything you want in here. Then we have alt equals image link, because if anything were to happen to the path of this image, you'd see the words image link. And I could prove that to you by misspelling smile.ico, refreshing the Notepad++, and then refreshing the page. And as you can see, you see this broken image and the text image link, because we broke the path. Let's fix the path by spelling everything perfectly, and it'll come back. Here's the second image underneath. Image border equals 0, source equals box, password smile.ico, title equals B, alt equals image link, width equals 100, height equals 100. Now, so if I hover over here, you see the B, and if I hover over here on the last one, you see a C. That's all the title being set to something. Now the width, if we don't set the width, if by misspelling width and height, and refresh Notepad++ and then refresh the page. This little guy in here, this is the actual size of the image that I saved in my project. And it's nice and clear when it's the actual size, but when I force it to stretch to a 100 by 100 pixels, you can see that it gets a bit blurry. If I were to have kept the image in a much larger file size, then having it 100 by 100 here, it would have been a little crisper. It would have been a lot crisper. When you go from this little to this big, you're going to get some blurring. Okay, and there's the last image, and all the stuff inside. There's the ending TH tag. And after that, we have a table data cell in the same row. Here's the opening and closing table data cell. Now we have a form. The form was given a name of login and an ID of form login. We have the text username followed by an input that has the type of text, the name set equal to user ID, and the ID set to user ID. After that, so you see username here, and then you see this input, this text input. We have a break tag so that we can move down to the next line here. And that's where you see the word password and the next input. After password, we have this input down here. Input type equals password. Because type equals password, when you type in here, you don't actually get to see the letters or the numbers, depending on what you're typing in there. You just see these little dots. Type equals password, name equals a shortened version of password, and ID equals a shortened version of password. Put another break tag in there so we can go down to the next line. Then we have this input, class equals, I created a class with a name, a shortened name of buttons by spelling it BTNZ. So the class is buttons, and the class is also buttons for the other button, because when we styled it, there's some things that these two buttons share in common. But anyway, input class equals buttons, type equals button, on click equals, and in double quotes we have check, and then in parentheses we have this dot form. And value equals login. That means login is what you see on the face of the button. Now let's look at the other button. Input class equals buttons, type equals reset, value equals cancel. After that, we close the form, close the table data cell, close the table row, close the table, close the field set, close the div, close the body, and close the HTML. So with that being said, we've looked at all three of the files that it takes to create this particular login page. We've looked at the HTML file, we looked at the CSS file, and we looked at the JS file.